Here we go again with all the Colorado hype. Look, I've got nothing against the Buffaloes. They are a very fun team to watch, but they are not winning the Big 12 this year. They are not making the college football playoff this year. The question they need to be asking themselves is whether or not they can just make a bowl game this year. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Here to answer that question today as we predict Colorado's schedule and record for this upcoming season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our weekly newsletters, home to our expert picks. Some of the best spread picks in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the entire country. If you want to win big with us, if you want exclusive content, exclusive analysis, go sign up for those newsletters, sign up for those expert picks, become a member of our GE Nation with everything we have to offer to you down in the description below. So last year, Colorado, they were all the hype in the preseason, all the hype for about the first 3-4 weeks of the regular season before things kind of fell apart for Coach Prime and the Buffaloes. They went just 4-8, but did have 5 one-possession losses. So they were in contention in a couple of these games, although you could argue that they should have been worse than 4-8 because they also had 3 one-possession wins. So what end of the spectrum you want to go on, that's entirely up to you. Colorado was a very up-and-down team last year. Got off to that hot start, including wins over Nebraska, TCU, Colorado State, and then only won 1 game after that and blew that massive lead to Stanford as well. You take a look at what they've got coming back to the Buffaloes, returning to the Big 12, we should add. Pac-12 fell apart. They come back to their roots, back to the Big 12, and they've got 8 starters returning on offense. None bigger, of course, than the son of Coach Prime, son of Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. One of the best quarterbacks, not just in this conference, but in the entire country, threw for over 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions last season. What makes those numbers more impressive is the fact that he was under pressure so much and still delivered those type of numbers and still held on to the football as well as he did. Colorado gave up 56 sacks last year. 56 sacks. The offensive line was garbage. That was probably a big reason why they only mustered 69 rushing yards per game. All those numbers should improve. Sanders should have another big year. The rushing numbers should improve because the offensive line is a lot better now with 100 career starts up front. They do lose their top 4 rushers from last season, but they add Dallin Hayden in from Ohio State, Jimmy Horn, and Travis Hunter, who of course plays both ways, are both back at wide receiver. They also went out and added LaJohntay Wester from Florida Atlantic, had over 1,100 yards with the Owls last year. Will Shepard coming in from Vanderbilt, nearly 700 reception yards last year with the Commodores. Sanders has the weapons. He's going to have better protection. This offense was great last year, going to be even better this year. Defense, that's what needs the most work. Outside of the protection up front on the offensive line, they've got to get better defensively. Colorado gave up 34.8 points per game, 453 yards per game, 176 rushing yards per game, 277 passing yards per game. And the defense was just atrocious last year. But they do return their top 3 tacklers. Shiloh Sanders, Levante Bentley, Trevor Woods, all returning to Colorado for this season. So they got some experience there. Then they loaded up on transfers, especially up front on the defensive line with a guy like B.J. Green coming in from Arizona State, 11.5 tackles for a loss just last year. The secondary, of course, is led by Travis Hunter, but they also added Preston Hodge from Liberty. They had DJ McKinney in from Oklahoma State. We know Deion Sanders loves to utilize the transfer portal. That's how he planned on building his teams these first few years in Boulder. How quickly the new transfers can gel together will ultimately decide whether or not Colorado can go bowling or not. You take a look at their schedule, guys. It's tough, man. I'm telling you. It is tough. There is a legitimate, not like a 1% chance, 2% chance, a decent chance the Buffaloes could start 0-3. That is not out of the question. North Dakota State, Nebraska, and Colorado State, only one of those at home, it is not impossible to say Colorado could start 0-3. It really isn't. They've got to be very, very careful. North Dakota State, let's start with them. FCS team, that doesn't mean that you just chalk it up as a win. The Bison are the real deal. Look, I know they've lost the status of the top dog at the FCS ranks. They owned it for so many years. The dynasty's not over for the Bison, but their little brothers, some would say, South Dakota State, have won back-to-back national championships and have kind of stolen that crown from them. But the Bison have still won 6 games over FBS opponents since 2010. They are very physical, always are, up front at the line of scrimmage. So much so that if Colorado isn't ready, if those transfers on the offensive line, defensive line haven't gelled, they will lose and they will get beat. But I don't think they will. I think this game is very, very close, and it's not decided until the fourth quarter. But I think Colorado narrowly escapes North Dakota State to start 1-0. Don't be shocked if they lose this game by any means, but I think they survive. Go on the road to Nebraska. They beat Nebraska 36-14 last year. They had 454 yards of offense, and Nebraska just committed mistake after mistake after mistake. Colorado finished +3 in the turnover margin. But Lincoln's tough. They're going to be rocking for this game. They've got high expectations in year 2 under Matt Rule, typically the year that he hits his stride when he's rebuilt teams like Temple and Baylor. Nebraska has 17 starters back, led by the freshman phenom quarterback Dylan Raiola. How he pans out will dictate not just if Nebraska wins this game, but if they have a successful season or not. They do return 8 starters on defense, though. That's the difference maker here. Nebraska's defense. Home field advantage and a defense that gave up just 18.3 points per game and only 93 rushing yards per game. Their defensive line is elite, guys. It is good. And I think they're going to create some pressure on Shedeur Sanders, force him into some mistakes, kind of the opposite of last year. Nebraska doesn't win by 20-plus points, but they force Colorado into the big-time mistakes, and the Cornhuskers win at home. Colorado 1-1. They beat Colorado State, even though they survived last year barely in 2 overtimes. Probably should have lost that game. They'll have another close game here against the Rams as they return tons of experience, but I do think they survive against their in-state rival as long as their secondary doesn't get torched. Colorado State over 300 passing yards per game last year. If they can just shut down the pass, they're good to go. Deion Sanders, think has his team ready. They win this game, although it's close again. So all 3 of those first games are going to be close, but we have Colorado going 2-1. Then they get into the bulk of conference play. Baylor, they start off with Baylor. It's homecoming for the Buffaloes in Boulder. Early homecoming in September. I think they beat Baylor. Old Big 12 rivals haven't met since 2010. A battle of the transfers, right? Baylor, very disappointing last year, but reloaded their team with tons and tons of transfers on both sides of the ball. We know that's what Colorado did last year. Know that's what they're doing again this year. But I look at Colorado. They've got home field advantage. They've got the quarterback edge with Shedeur Sanders. That I think they're going to be more explosive offensively as a whole. Could see a lot of points scored possibly. Neither defense was great last year, but I like Colorado a lot in this spot. They are 3-1, off to a hot start again. But the schedule gets very tough after that. Got them at 3-1. I think they lose their next 3. I think they lose to UCF, a long road trip to face a Knights team that will be coming off a bye week coming into this game. And this will be one of the best offenses that Colorado sees all year. I'm still not completely sold that some transfers up front on the defensive line and some transfers in the secondary are going to make Colorado's defense one of the best defenses in the Big 12. I'm not sold on that yet. And if you believe that's the case, that's great. I'm not sold that's going to happen within the first 4 or 5 games of the year. UCF has tons of experience. KJ Jefferson, a veteran quarterback transferring in from Arkansas. RJ Harvey, very, very good running back, one of the best in this conference. The defense brings 8 back and loads of transfers there as well. So maybe a high-scoring game here. But UCF's got the home field advantage. They've got the experience edge. I'm going to give them the defensive edge as well. They lose to the Knights. Then after the bye week, they play Kansas State as home. I don't believe Colorado's to the point of hanging with the top dogs in this conference, and Kansas State is one of them. So even though they get to host the Wildcats, they're facing a team that's going to be so stingy defensively. One of the best defenses in the conference, no doubt about it, and has one of the best rushing attacks in the conference. Can Colorado contain Avery Johnson? Can they contain DJ Giddens? I don't think they can. This Buffaloes team isn't to the point of competing with the best of the best yet. They fall to Kansas State, and they fall on the road to Arizona. A Big 12 game last year was a Pac-12 game. They only lost 34-31 to the Wildcats last year. The secondary going to be tested again, just like they're going to be tested against UCF and Colorado State. They fall, though, to the Wildcats. Teteroa McMillan, Noah Fafita, home field advantage for the Wildcats. Last year only lost by 3. This year lose by at least a touchdown, if not more. They are now 3-4 after the strong start. Well, let's get them back to 500. Beat Cincinnati. They will beat Cincinnati. The Bearcats were not great last year, 3-9, although they're going to be drastically improved this year in year 2 under Scott Satterfield. But the biggest thing for Cincinnati is they still need improvement on defense too. And the offense is not explosive enough to hang with Colorado. If the Buffaloes' front 7 can contain Corey Kiner, they'll win that game. And I think they know what to do. I think they go, hey, look, make Brendan Sorsby or somebody beat us through the air. They can't do it. If we can just shut down the run, we're going to be just fine. That's exactly what Colorado does. They beat Cincinnati at home to snap that losing skid and to sit at 500, 4-4, entering the bye week, needing just 2 wins to go bowling. Easier said than done, though, right? Look at those games. At Texas Tech, at Kansas, and then 2 of the best teams in the conference, Utah and Oklahoma State, but they do have to come to Boulder. I'm not going to leave you in suspense. I'm not going to draw this out. I believe Colorado's going to lose all 4 of those games. And yes, you are going to berate me in the comments, I'm sure, and scold me and say, how dare I predict them to have the same record they had last year. But once again, while I think they might improve statistically, while they might improve physically on both sides of the ball, they're not to the point of getting to the postseason. They're not to the point of going on the road to Lubbock and beating a Texas Tech team that's loaded offensively, if, of course, they can stay healthy, shutting down a 1,400-plus yard rusher in Taj Brooks and shutting down a very talented quarterback in Barron Morton. They're not capable of that. They're not capable of beating Utah, one of the best teams in the Pac-12 for years, now an immediate Big 12 title contender in their first year in the conference. Yes, they hung with the Utes last year, only lost by 6. Utah did not have a quarterback. Cam Rising now returns. Brant Keithy now returns. And Utah, as of right now, to me, has the best defense in the Big 12 in their first year there. So yes, they get to host this game in Boulder. That's awesome. But Utah's still way too talented, way too physical, especially up front in the trenches, to lose this game. They are not strong enough to go on the road to Kansas on Kansas' senior day against this elite of an offense and Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal and their top 3 pass catchers returning. And obviously, a guy in Lance Leipold that I significantly give the coaching edge to over Deion Sanders. They will not beat Kansas, and they will not beat Oklahoma State. Honestly, Oklahoma State's the most winnable of those Final Four in my eyes. Oklahoma State is. Because the Cowboys' defense still has a lot of question marks. I think they improve, but the question is by how much. But the question is, can Oklahoma State, who gave up 176 rushing yards per game, are they better enough up front to contain Ollie Gordon, the nation's leading rusher from last year? Are they good enough as a whole to take on Oklahoma State team that returned some of the most production in the entire country this year with 19 starters back? I don't think so. That is the most winnable game there. So go ahead if you want to give them that win. Colorado's still 5-7. It's an improvement, but not good enough. Ultimately, guys, I do not believe the Buffaloes will make the postseason this year. I've got them back at 4-8. Maybe you think they beat Oklahoma State, maybe Texas Tech, or an Arizona, or a Nebraska even. Maybe you can find a way to play with the math and get them to 6-6, but that's the best they'll be. They're not winning 8, 9, 10 games like some people think. Just like you thought last year. How'd that pan out for you? It is a rebuilding project in Boulder. Do I think Deion Sanders can get them there? 100%. But it takes time. Year 3 or year 4 is typically when new coaches hit their stride. Next year's year 3, and that could be the year that Colorado breaks through. But this year, they improve statistically. They improve from an effort standpoint, from a size and a skill standpoint, but once again fall short of their ultimate goals. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks, home to those exclusive newsletters. Do not miss out on those and an opportunity to become a member of our GE Nation. We want you to join our GE Nation as we expand it from coast to coast. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.